that's interesting, huh? Let me look again. Yeah, it doesn't even show you in my chat. Let me check somewhere else. Hmm. Oh, Twitch. You're a little twitchy. Well, I know you're there. And welcome to the show. Maybe it'll update in a little bit. I don't know what to say. At any rate, welcome. Good to see you. We have to talk, bro. Yeah, apparently they're finicky. Anyway, let's get into this. So, like usual, I am Mayor Watt. That's my site. I'm the mayor of ohmTown. ohmTown.com is a news aggregation site. Throws all of this stuff, news, information into 6 categories, and then within that, there are 50 more channels. I'm gonna have to stop something on one of my monitors. And that's gonna make it into the stream and into the podcast and into the YouTube channel. And oh my gosh. So like the last stream, I said I've expanded over to Spotify. I've expanded over to Google Play Podcasts, and I'm already on Apple Podcasts. And of course, you can go and pick all of this up over at YouTube as well, because Twitch has not graced me with the ability to store my VODs longer than 14 days. And really, I'm not even on their radar. So be sure to tell people and follow me so that I end up on their radar. Hopefully, it's on the good side of the radar. I've been on the bad side. You know, there's a dean's list for everything, right? If you're really good, you're on the dean's list. I was on a different dean's list. Apparently, there's a bad one. Nobody told me that there was a bad one until I was on it. Anyway, let's get what? What? You don't know? You don't know about that? The a dean's list? Maybe that's only in the States. You guys have deans, right? Every school has deans. No? Hmm. I'm starting to act kind of like a dog where somebody blows a whistle and I turn my head confused. What is going on? But it's another world to you? Well, I do believe that we are in a different timeline and not our uh, Marvel Cinematic Universe Prime timeline. Ever since the Cubs won the World Series, everything has been wonky, and this is what we ended up with. The timelines have been fractured. Which brings me to the point. I'm putting together a list of movies so that we can talk about time and time travel within a show that I want to spin up. It's a science fiction fantasy show called Temporology, where we talk about time and time travel, the science of time and time travel, and the science fiction of time and time travel. I've said time and time travel a lot just now. So I've had a lot of caffeine. Okay, so I've already picked out 20 articles. My stream keeps getting derpy over here. So let me hide it so that I don't show anything. It doesn't try to update me on this other side here. But anyway, yeah, everybody should love time travel movies. And Primer, some people pronounce it Primer. It's a great one. You should totally check it out if you've never seen it. It used to be free that you can watch it, but you can't anymore. I think, at least I recall it being free, but it's been a while back, and like all good things, my time machine broke. Anyway, I can't go back in time and watch it again. Never mind. I've said too much. Okay, so let's get into this. ohmTown.com has all of the news on the front page. I'm still making tweaks to it. Things might still be breaking periodically. I'm adding things and taking things away, trying to find something that works. Gamification has been activated, so when you make comments, you actually earn points now. I am eventually going to integrate the points that are generated on ohmTown and in the future with Twitch, it will mesh. So when you are on the channel on Twitch, it will update the data that's on ohmTown so that you earn even if you're just sitting in my chat. And then that will translate into things on ohmTown.com. And what those things are, I haven't really figured it all out yet. But we'll see what happens. And a whole lot of other things, really. But today, it's all about the news. Let's get into it. The very first article is about Meta. So if you don't know yet about Meta, Meta is basically Facebook. Facebook did kind of like what Google did, and Google formed Alphabet. So Facebook grew beyond its borders and created Meta. That way, if without going too into the reads about this, if Facebook messes up, it doesn't necessarily negatively harm the fundamentals of Meta. So just like when Google grew beyond search, expanded into YouTube and expanded into owning other products and services, if something happens with these tertiary products, it doesn't hobble or damage in any significant way Alphabet. So Meta and Alphabet are the similar umbrella corporations, if you will, of these two other larger multi-billion-dollar corporations. Well, Meta cancels the F8. I just blend it together. I think it's called Fate, but some people say F8. But the developer conference this year, they're going to skip it because they're going to focus on the metaverse. I really wish that they would not have been able to glom onto that term metaverse. But whatever, that's my bias. I'm very aware of it. Anyway, the title of this article is Meta Cancels Fate Developer Conference this year to quote unquote build the metaverse. Let's click the link and take us over to roadtovr.com. And so, again, they are canceling the F8 or Fate developer conference, focusing on the metaverse. This is one of those things where there is so much money and so much momentum that even in the face of adversity, even in the face of people going, no, they will pay you. I mean, there's so much money there. It's almost absurd as a business to completely ignore this development process because there's going to be so much support to try and get you into it. I love the idea of augmented reality and virtual reality, but I really don't like the idea of it being housed within Meta. I want the tech to be more balkanized. I actually spun up a Twitter, I can't call it a competitor, but a clone of Twitter, because I wanted to noodle around with what's referred to as federated services. Right now, there's only one Twitter, but you can actually launch a service. It's open. Okay, so Twitter actually is open source. It has a core, or it has, oh, it has its own fragment of open source code that is proprietary, and that's Twitter. But Mastodon, as it's called, is basically an open source Twitter. Yes. And so it is actually called Mastodon. Let's see here. So it's called Mastodon, and you can spin up a server. It only costs like $6 a month, and you can noodle around with it and check it out. And they actually connect to each other. So it's called the federated service. And so you can actually go to this site, Mastodon, and create an account. And it's your account name at whatever the Mastodon service is called. Now, I'm not particularly ready to go running around screaming it, but yeah, if you do a search for open source Twitter and Mastodon, you'll pull up this open source Twitter service, and you can actually again spin up your own Mastodon server. There's always a fee unless you're doing it. If you're rolling it your own on your own server, then obviously the costs are borne by your server. But you can always pay somebody, $10 and you can spin it up yourself. Well, that's what I'm more interested in, that federated process where information isn't siloed, isn't monitored to such a great degree by one corporation. But it's because I really embrace competition, and it allows me to just, if I want to rest on my laurels and not keep on the pressure of competition, then so be it. But if everybody spins up their own Mastodon server and has thousands of users, ta-da. Yeah, there is a band. Yeah, I stumbled across that too. But for this article, Meta's canceling Fate and focusing on the metaverse. Yeah, I want Apple to launch their augmented reality glasses. And I want wireless. I've said this in previous episodes. I want wireless VR that works seamlessly with Steam and all of my games. But right now, the index is still wired. So wait a couple more years. Probably late 2023. I think the index will probably come out with a wireless version of it. So this next article, I'll keep on moving. This next article is the Wall Street Journal. Banks weigh using Zelle to challenge Visa and MasterCard. So what is Zelle? Let's take a look. So the money transfer service boomed amid the pandemic. Some banks want to expand it to retail payments. And it's funny because it says banks weigh using Zelle to challenge Visa and MasterCard. And it's not tiny little services either. You know what I didn't mention in the previous article? Sorry about this. Sorry for going back and forth, but the last article, the one about Meta canceling the Fate Developer Conference, that was written by Scott Hayden over at Road to VR. Wow, this opened up a bunch of windows. I feel like I'm just running ragged today. This article over at MarketWatch, banks weigh using Zelle to challenge Visa and MasterCard. It's written by Anna Marie Androidis and David Benoit. And or Benoit. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But I don't think it's Benoit. Anyway, so it's a money transfer service, and there was a recent with Cash App investing that was breached. It doesn't have anything to do with each other, but it just kind of draws home the point that the more services there are out there that you have accounts with, you have the possibility of it being a more target-rich environment and you being susceptible to a data breach. It's and then there's also, well, I won't get into the reads with this article. which I tend to do. But so Building says, you want to know something interesting? No, I'm really boring, so I'm not. Of course I do. Come on, tell me something interesting. So for this, it says Zelle recorded some 1.8 billion transactions in 2021, totaling $490 billion worth of transactions, both more than double their pre-pandemic levels. Yeah. Yeah, there's a website. Doesn't show. Let's see here. You looked up your email addresses, and your email address doesn't show the Twitch breach that happened last year. Yeah, that's possible. If you weren't part of the exfiltrated data, that's if you really I feel weird about doing these kind of searches because you have to divulge a bit of information. Arguably an email address by itself is relatively harmless. It really depends on how motivated and skilled somebody is. But if you go to have I been pwned, PWNED.com, you can actually pull up various email addresses. So I don't know if everybody was. I know that a lot of people were, but I'm not sure if everybody was. It was a certain window that was snatched, but I'm not sure of the full scope if it was every single user of the Twitch service that had a payout. But yeah, it was pretty expansive. So, has anybody used Zelle? I've never used Zelle, but 1.8 billion transactions in 1 year can't be too bad. And frankly, this is actually pretty much the predecessor of what PayPal is. PayPal was a money transfer service. It has actually grown over the years, but it's because it evolved. Now it has its own credit card and whatnot. But when right before PayPal came into existence, I had been pondering a money transfer service just like PayPal. When PayPal hit the market, I spun up mine. I could not keep up with the legislative process and lobbying. And so there was a whole lot of policy and procedure applied that PayPal could keep up with. But I am kind of a chronic entrepreneur who spins up businesses and sells them to other people. And so I was once a self-declared competitor of PayPal. They never knew I existed. It's kind of like uh, being in high school and you have a crush on somebody and they don't even know you exist. That's kind of how I am. Um, I'm the small time idea person that comes up with products and services. But um, these kind of companies, these massive companies with $500 billion worth of transactions, if you uh, go and look up the ticker, if it's a publicly traded company for Zelle, go and look and see if you can invest in them. Because there's really three things that will happen. They'll either stay where they are, or they'll be acquired, or they'll crash and burn. Um, and you can actually see if it's really volatile, then something is going on and you have to look a little bit more at it. Um, if it's constantly going up, then there is continued interest. Now, I'm not telling you to go and invest in a company, but you have to do the due diligence. If you've got some disposable income, a little bit sitting there, and you feel secure in investing it, then you can open up a Robinhood account, for instance, and um, you can start saving for your future little bit by little bit. Now, what's this? Early Warning Services owns them. I'm not sure who owns Zelle. Let's check it out real quick. Let's see. The parent company is Early Warning Services LLC. Yeah. I'm not sure about them. I'd have to root around and see a little bit more about what Early Warning Services LLC is. It's a privately held limited liability company. So, yeah, that is a weird name, isn't it? Let's see. A private financial services company owned by the banks. Oh, wow. Okay. So, Zelle is pretty massive. It's owned by the banks Bank of America, Truist, Capital One, JP Morgan, Chase, PNC Bank, US Bank, Wells Fargo. The Zelle service enables individuals to electronically transfer money. Yeah, well, this is no slouch. And it only has 12 employees. Is that really? Yeah, I guess so. Wow. That's amazing. I'll have to look at it. But yeah, I think it is a weird name too. There has to be history there. Let me see if I can play catch up. I don't think that I put 1 second here. Wall Street Journal, right? And then this one, I'll throw this into chat. Sorry for the weird mumbling on the air. This next article is a coronavirus update, a $10 billion funding package for next phase of COVID stalls in Senate as cases start climbing in 28 states. This is actually happening in other countries too. There's always an ebb and flow of infections for COVID since it was discovered. And it's going to continue similar to the ebb and flow of flu in general because COVID-19 is a flu. It just happens to be one that's particularly infectious and deadly. But $10 billion is quite a large sum, particularly when we're on the cusp of a possible recession and definitely inflation. So this is a MarketWatch article written by Sierra Lenane, and it says COVID cases are up 86% in Nebraska from 2 weeks ago and 73% in Nevada. Depending on where you're from, you're probably also tracking it. Different regions track it in a different way. Many of the U.S. states, I'd say all of them nowadays, have some type of coronavirus tracker to count how many people are dropping off the face of the planet or getting sick and are in the hospital or being treated and released. I've said, you know what? I probably haven't said this in my stream, but I just want to draw some attention to the fact that unless you tell the person that you're about to pause a video while you're recording it, there is no way that you can pause a video without the people in the video looking completely derpy. Now, I think that this can be scientifically proven. I'm not quite ready to attach my name to it, but I guess you could, you know, call it something along the lines of the Merawatt, whatever. I'd have to come up with something. Anyway, I think that there is a rule in video that you can't pause it without the people in it looking completely goofy. The country is averaging 15,223 hospitalizations a day. That's here in the States. Wow. Come on, people. Wear your masks. Get your vaccine. Never quite understood why people get bent out of shape when others say that, but hey. So Zell probably doesn't have a ticker. Okay, let's see. With it being only 12 people employed back in 2020, I doubt that it is public. Yeah, it's still talking the pre-IPO, so it isn't publicly accessible yet. Can't invest in that, but you could probably invest in. No, even its parent company is private. Yeah, you're gonna have to find another solution to invest in. So this next article is over in Hatch Ideas. Yeah, that one actually, their parent company, the emergency systems thing. What is it called? Let me scroll back up here. Early warning services. Yeah, that the article that I read is that it's a private company. Okay, so this next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Conservatives have enacted about 1,600 book bans in school districts over the last 9 months, with Texas leading the way, according to a report. This is one of those things where I don't quite get it, because there's a lot of history to book banning, and in some way they lead to book burning. And this is all about book bans targeting race and LGBTQ. And they were carried out in 26 states. That's 50% of the states in the United States. But if you look at probably the regions where this is taking place, they're low population density, rural areas, not necessarily cities. And even then, it might be something that can be construed as being inside a high population city, but it's 12 people. It says here the 713 bans in Texas account for nearly half of the 1,586 book bans nationwide. And it's I just think that it's weird because, and I've said this in other episodes, abuse happens in the dark. Writing a book does or shouldn't amount to much, and it definitely shouldn't be the only ideal that you have. um we're all human. You look at another person and label them as something. It just shows really your ignorance more than them being able to have a label applied to them. It's just weird. So Berlin says, wait, what? What way are the bans going against LGBTQ? Yeah, they're basically taking any book that they don't agree with their ideology. It's typically fundamentalist, religious groups that are anti-LGBTQ, or anything having to do with here in the States. Uh, Critical race theory is what it's called here in the States. I'm not sure what it would be called somewhere else, if it's even in existence somewhere else. But you know, this is going to sound like I'm talking down to people, but I'm not. Just I'm trying to get to a point. The America in particular has a history of slavery. The entire beginning of America used slaves. The very White House that is the embodiment of American democracy and freedom, short of the Statue of Liberty, was built using slaves. And there is a population within the United States that wants to downplay that, keep it in history, not acknowledge that all the way up to today there's still systemic racism. Don't acknowledge it. Don't say. And then when you expand this to other issues like LGBTQ, Florida has a mandate of don't say gay. It's akin to what the military used to have called don't ask, don't tell. Um, there's all of these weird um, mechanisms of protection, yet they don't stand the test of time. Humans need to be humans, and we as a society should embrace humans of all ilk and rely on their behavior to justify you saying, I don't like that person. I don't care what you do, but if you're a jerk, if you're a tool to me or to somebody else and I witness it, I'm not going to buy you a drink. I'm not going to hang out with you. I don't want to talk with you. I'm not going to invite you into my house. I don't care if you watch me on my stream. If you don't like what I am saying, that's the way that it is. I'm giving my perspective and I'm communicating with people, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to discuss these more involved sociological forces, but you have to be open to them as well. But that's not what these book bans are. That's not what these people want. They want everybody to fall into their particular paradigm. So you said, when I was in Germany, a German teacher told me that the Holocaust didn't happen. And in Germany, that's actually illegal. You can't do that. Yeah, it's quite frowned upon by the general population. And whoever it was probably wouldn't get away with it long. Yeah. So let's go over to the article's publisher. It's an article in Business Insider written by Nicole Gaudiano. Conservatives have enacted about 1,600 book bans in school districts over the last 9 months, with Texas leading the way, report says. And I'm not surprised. And based on my research, these kind of things typically happen in regions that are more rural and low population. Let's see. The top 3 banned titles focus on LGBTQ plus individuals or touch on same-sex relationships. It just doesn't make any sense, you know. A lot of people that are of this ideological bent think that it's just a choice. You just wake up one day and go, I'm going to be lesbian. And that's just not how it is. We are literally heading down a path of who we are based on a combination of genetic makeup and chemistry and nature and nurture. That's the whole nature nurture thing. We are things well outside our control. And then, if somebody argues, well, no, you can choose, well, then you can choose to not hate simply because somebody doesn't agree with your particular bent in gender or race or sexuality. Be an adult and move past it. Someone else's happiness shouldn't be impacting your unhappiness. Go be unhappy by yourself. And that's really what it's all about. It's antisocial. It's sociopathy. They can't tolerate anybody being outside their particular ideological bent. And that's Sociology 101, which they're not going to look into. So this article gets really deep into this. 713 bans in Texas, where conservative politicians have waged war against books on racism and sexuality. Yeah. In these regions where they have these book bannings, and in some cases book burnings, they also discount education, and have you know, questionable other things going on. Um, let's see here. It says, Brildane says, we all had that person at school who you just knew was gay, but they didn't know themselves yet. And then as an adult, you find out they discovered themselves and you're like, yes, I knew this. I think someone like that proves you don't really choose. Well, yeah, you are who you are. And that's really where it ends in the your gender, your sexuality, your race. All of this is pretty much that's you. Your attitude about things. That's the thing that really weighs on me. If I'm hanging out with somebody, I could care less. Good for you. You be who you are. I will never judge you on that, but I am going to judge you if, you say hi to me and then you kick a cat. If you tell me you hate kids and it's an irrational, just saying you hate kids in general, I'm not going to really think fondly of you because you hate kids. Oh, you don't want kids. I understand that kind of thing. There's more nuance to the human condition. So it's, I just don't judge people simply because of their either gender or orientation or whatever. It's really about how you act. I think everybody should do that. But when I've said this to people in professional circles, they tell me, well, you're trying to make people be like that, which is like me, where I'm more open to anybody coming up and talking to me. And if they're nice, then awesome. And if they're a jerk, then I don't want to be around them. And they made it sound like I was wrong with thinking that society should be more like that, more embracing of other people. But that makes, when you don't do that, that is the almost the definition of antisocial. When you want to be by yourself, when you want to be away from society, that is antisocial. When you don't care about somebody else's feelings, when you don't care about society, that's antisocial. Let's click this link and it'll take us over to the Business Insider for this next article, which is, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not of throwing this in chat, so I'm really sorry if I'm skipping stuff. It'll be in the show notes later. And this next article is recycling doesn't keep plastic out of our stomachs, lungs, or blood, experts say. A couple of episodes ago, I was talking about this, that another researcher found that there are microplastics inside living human beings. Well, here is another article, not about that particular one, but another study that says a small study published last month found that blood out of 17 of 17 out of 22 people contained microplastics. And the other study and this study both found that it's in human blood, that it's in our lungs, it's all through it permeates us. And the last article was talking about how, well, we don't know if it's bad for us yet. And well, let me tell you something. It's bad for you. Why? Because we shouldn't be having microplastics flowing around our body. Let's see here. This is a businessinsider.com article written by Morgan McFall Johnson, S-E-N. So Johnssen. So Brildane says, you know what also doesn't keep it out of our lungs, blood and stomachs, music, long walks, etc., etc. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what's going to come of this, because this is happening everywhere. Nobody knows where it's coming from. It's pervasive. It says plastic is probably in your food, your drinking water. Now scientists fear that it's flowing through your veins. A small study last month, and that's where they talk about the 17 out of 22. And the other one that I saw, it was more people in a bigger evaluation, and it wasn't from the Biodesign Center for Environmental Health and Engineering at Arizona State University. It says previous studies have found There we go. Here we go. So previous studies have found microplastics in humans' food, drinking water, poop, placentas, lungs, drifting through the air we breathe. And that is where the big problem is. And just today, I had somebody say that they should drop the mask mandate at an institution. I'll just say that, at an institution, because researchers have proven beyond a doubt that wearing a mask doesn't stop COVID-19. And so I responded with, well, this article and this article says otherwise, and these are from published academic researchers that are focused on this, subject matter experts in this, and respected by for, I don't know if it really matters what the organization is, National Institute of Health. So it's a government agency here in the States, quasi-government agency, because it works with private, public. Anyway, it's so willfully ignorant to discount the academics showing, because they actually have the research that shows just how effective it is. It slows down the progression. It blocks it from making contact with you. You could be asymptomatic and exhaling it, but it's getting caught inside the fibers of the mask. But every once in a while, there might be something that breaks through, but it's typically because it's an improperly worn mask, or one that's been, well, improperly worn means either wearing it wrong and air can come in without going through the filtering process, or they're reusing it too long. But this is microplastics floating around in the air. So you inhale them, and then it penetrates your lungs, it gets into your blood supply, then it gets into organs. It's just really weird, and hidden. It's hidden all these years as it's been growing and becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So it says an estimated that the average American ingested about 50,000 microplastic particles each year and inhaled about the same amount. Well, I have a lot of plastic. It lowers the distance and density of particles breathed. Yes, because the virus is in our, well, for lack of a better term, our spit, right? So we're always spitting little microparticles. We can't see them, but the micron dimensions of the virus, they're in that little bit of moisture, and then it lands on you, and 36 hours later, you wipe your eye and suddenly you're infected. So, and it can take just one. If you are susceptible and your system doesn't fight it off, you're infected. You may not even know it, and then you get other people sick. Again, it goes back to the sociological forces of you are part of society, so wear a mask, get vaccinated. If you can't get vaccinated, wear a mask, definitely. So let's continue on with the news. The next article is in the Word in Tech. NVIDIA won't make you sign into Steam or Epic to try its free new cloud gaming demos. Let's click this link. I'll throw it over in chat. So cloud gaming isn't for everyone, but it's getting easier to tell if it's for you, because NVIDIA and Google are now letting you try their virtual gaming PCs for free, following Google's recent announcement that any Stadia developer will be able to offer an instantly accessible free trial of their game without needing to log into a Google account. That's awesome. Let's click the link and go over to The Verge. This is written by Sean Hollister. And anything that lowers the friction necessary to try a game. Nowadays, it's not very costly to distribute a game, not compared to the old days. And definitely easier to try it. you post it somewhere, people can download it or stream it, particularly NVIDIA's GeForce Now service. So if the demo is out there, then you can just log in, play it remotely. You don't purchase anything. You don't have to download anything. Maximum graphics, depending on the free mode might have 1080 graphics instead of 1440 or higher, and definitely not running RTX 3090 graphics, but it will have superior graphics when you use something like GeForce Now. This is all awesome because then a bunch of people can try stuff out, and if they like it, they buy it right there. Zero friction. I had returned a game once to Steam, and the person responded with, we can stop you from getting a refund because you're just trying out a game. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's exactly the purpose of having a window for me to see if I like a game or not. I just kind of chuckled and I didn't respond beyond saying, yeah, that's why you have a trial period. But now they offer more demos. So that's what's really important. Make the customer happy. In this particular instance, offering a free demo, it's really cheap. It's harder to make an unhappy customer happy than to make a happy customer try something out and remain happy that they don't have to jump through flaming hoops just to try something out. So good on them. And we're going to keep on having demo days over at Steam, so you can always try out the demos. It'll be free, early access typically, etc., etc. It'll be neat. That's coming again in June, by the way, as far as I recall. So this next article is over in the Word in Tech, and it is titled Epic and Lego Partner to Build a Metaverse for Kids. I've already said my piece about Metaverse, but it says the two biggest names in entertainment are coming together to create a virtual space aimed at kids through a new partnership between Fortnite developer Epic Games and Lego. Quote unquote, we are excited to come together to build a space in the metaverse that's fun, entertaining, and made for kids and families, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney said in a statement. Yeah, I don't want my kid in meta databases and monitoring and whatnot. It's bad enough that Windows 11 is supposedly going to be forcing a cloud account. Windows 10, if you don't disable it, it tracks a child account, and then monitors what they do on this child account. So it's if you're under 13, there's different rules in the United States and elsewhere. But we have certain protective services in or policy in place. But it says that looks a little older than kids. yeah. Oh, you'd be surprised. So this article is over at The Verge, written by Andrew Webster, and it's captioned with details are scarce. So that's because somebody is talking a little bit sooner, but trying to get in front of rumors to limit what might set up too much hype, or maybe it's being tempered because there is hype, and trying to maybe light a little fire under it so that maybe there's more hype. I'm not quite sure. But a metaverse for kids starts getting creepy because you don't really know who it is that's engaged in that metaverse space. It will be monitored, I can tell you that. So let's continue on. The next article is Berkeley is digging a 400-foot hole to reduce emissions with geothermal. This is in the Mobile Channel. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley are moving to reduce the school's carbon footprint with geothermal heat pumps, weaning its building off of fossil fuels, which is wonderful. I've said this in previous episodes. Again, I kind of reach back into that time machine of the last almost 100 episodes that the problem with green energy is that it is indefensible. So if I were, let's say, I'll even give a real world context to this. It's a lot easier in Ukraine to defend the nuclear power plants than it is to defend geothermal, solar, or wind. And those three make up the brunt of green energy. All it takes is a rock, and solar energy is either diminished greatly or completely incapacitated. The same thing happens with wind. I can just shoot a blade and the wind turbine will be out of balance and it will destroy itself. And geothermal just takes a big bomb and it will destroy the geothermal pipes and shut down the geothermal operation, right? So in a perfect world, you could do all of this green stuff and nobody would go and invade your country. But that's exactly what happened with Ukraine. So if it was pure green there, because there's no air superiority in Ukraine, all of that green energy supply would have been wiped out overnight and basically shut down everything. But there's nuclear power and LNG gas that still was defensible. You can bury it in the ground. You can put it inside defensible structures underground, right? So it's and then let's see here. Gildane says everyone should stay away from nuclear because any damage, it hurts the entire planet. And to some degree, yeah, you can lose control of it. But there is newer technology in nuclear where there's little to no potential radiation leak. The old school nuclear processes definitely do. And they are even the newer ones, really, it's basically just a steam engine. It's generating heat. The heat heats up molten materials, typically salt, and that's what turns the turbine. The heat from these molten flows generate steam and turn a turbine. I mean, it's basically just a steam engine, but there are new reactors that are much less dirty on the other side of processing nuclear materials. But old school ones, one wrong move and they can go supercritical. It's a steam explosion that wiped out Chernobyl. You'd think that it was like a nuclear bomb or something like that, or something high energy. And it was in a sense, but it was nothing more than a steam explosion that blew off the top, and then everything goes wonky from there. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if it's done right. And it's rare that anything happens in the grand scheme of things. Now, it all depends on all of this other stuff, socioeconomic stuff, geopolitical stuff, that causes the issue. All of the more animal side of human nature. But let's click this link and it'll take us over to the article at vice.com. It's written by Audrey Carleton, pardon me. And they're going to be talking about these geothermal heat pumps, which are neat. And here in the States, probably will never be impacted. And now that I said that, who knows? We'll have to get that time travel show going, and maybe we can come up with a time machine and figure out if anything bad will happen. Let's see here. Dr. Kenichi Soga, professor in mineral engineering, is leading the charge in figuring out the best way to provide the school's energy needs. The first step was to identify the quality of rock formations underneath Berkeley's campus and how equipped they are to store heat collected from campus buildings. Yeah, the way that this works is there's a bunch of holes and they run pipes down it, and it heats up on one side, cools down on the other side, and you end up with what amounts to a heat exchange The fiber sends a pulse of light underground that, when reflected back up through the hole, offers information about the quality of rock and temperature of a certain location on the fiber. That's fascinating. It's pretty neat stuff. I'm always interested in the latest technology, so there's going to be a whole lot more over at that article. So follow that link and you'll be able to read more, much more. And I've got so many articles. Oh my gosh, I might have to call this short. This next article is in the Word and Tech, the ancient secret that makes chocolate so tempting. We'll click that link real quick and keep on hustling through this. This is an article over at phys.org, written by Cecilia Duong, University of New South Wales. Whether you prefer milk, dark caramel, or added hazelnuts, chocolate is enjoyed by millions of people each year. So much so that the global chocolate and confectionery production industry is currently worth $100 billion. Wow. Cocoa trees originated from the Amazon region in Central and South America. Thousands of years ago, the native Indian and Aztec peoples used to make a drink, and I've actually had that drink. It's pretty interesting. Made from the beans rather than how we eat it. It basically was like chocolate milk. Now we have plantations across Indonesia, Nigeria, Ghana, and even small ones in northern Queensland here in Australia, but most cocoa beans are still sourced from the Ivory Coast. And there's a big process for chocolate. I don't know if they're going to go into all of it. It looks like they do in this article, but I'm trying to find out. At the manufacturing plant, the dried cocoa beans are firstly roasted. Yeah, so they're talking about this really deep, but I'm curious where it is that makes it. So, yeah, it doesn't actually say overtly what it is that makes people crave chocolate fortnightly. Anyway, let's continue on. I'll let you. Sorry for the fast scroll. I know that makes some people really cranky. Don't be mad at me. Okay, so go over to phys.org and read the rest of that article. I will post the link so that you can go and take a look at it. And I'm gonna kind of rampage through this because I've got pretty much half of my articles because I stepped up on my soapbox so much. Just a couple of people every once in a while, and it's not that big of a deal. Nobody's really upset. I'm just trying to, because a couple of people have said something about it in the past. I've been conscientious about it and try to warn before I do it. So it's more like just an awareness thing. The next article's over in the Mobile Channel, and it says the world is perilously close to irreversible climate change. 5 tipping points keep scientists up at night. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where it comes from, because somebody will be looking at the text or looking at a picture, and then I just zip away. And unfortunately, it's I do this for an hour, and sometimes, like today, I'm just kind of up on my soapbox about the sociological stuff, mainly because all day today I was peppered with conversations about sociological things, why people are doing the things that they're doing. But yeah, exactly. That's why the okay, I won't worry about it anymore. So let's check this out. It says here, 5 years ago, the United Nations Panel on Climate Change was charged with drafting a series of reports detailing its science, the effects on the planet, and how humanity might save itself. You know, the way I see humanity saving itself is for us to stop fighting over resources and politics and exploiting technology to give everybody as much opportunity as possible, equalize, that opportunity and equity, education, um, and and people always look at me weird when I say you can't have you don't have a very good society if you have people living in uh, unwanted poverty, right? Some people want to stay away from society. Some people don't want wealth. They want to just be left alone. They don't care about, being highly engaged or in somebody else's eyes, um, a benefit to society, right? They want to be who they are and they don't need money. They don't need fame. They don't need fortune. They don't need anything. They just want to be who they are. And then you got the other side where you've got hundreds of billions of dollars of personal wealth. Well, when you have that disparity, and when I say there are people that don't want any of that, those aren't the people that I'm talking about. But you have people who have tried and failed to be sustainable for themselves. They can't afford a house or even an apartment. They can't afford clothes or food or whatever. But when you look at the history, you find out that they never got a good education. They never had any opportunity. You can't create opportunity out of nothing. Opportunity it presents itself and you have to be prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. Well, 5 irreversible climate change things. Let's scroll down, we'll look at it. Phys.org is the article. It's written by Elizabeth Weiss. So let's see if it points it out like a list, or if it's so Amazon rainforest becomes a savanna. We just got to stop. We're not using the technology to rebuild it. We're cutting it down at a faster rate than we repopulate that forest. And then even then we cut it down at a shorter rate than, the history, millions of years of trees growing. And the people that sell their land from rainforest regions, they get a boost of money, and then that money goes away and they've sold their land to a corporation, and that those trees are gone. And so it gets turned into grazing land. But it's the wrong type of land. So some of them pivot, some of the communities pivot and they become sustainable, but not all of them. They say coral reefs die, right? So coral reefs hang in the balance. This is all stuff that has to do with ocean temperatures, ice sheets melting, again, climate change. We have to step away from abusing the environment to such a great degree. Atlantic circulation stops. This has been a discussion for a while, that there's basically a dead zone and then there's all kinds of material just sitting there. There's like what do they call it? There's a massive island out there of nothing but debris. Let's see what the other stuff is here. The snow forest disappears. Yeah, that's another thing. It's all about global warming. So if we don't change our ways, we're going to end up giving the planet to our kids, or future generations if we don't have kids. And the only thing that we can say at the end of the day is, well, we survived this long. I don't care about the rest of them because I lived my 80, 100 years or whatever it is. And again, that goes back to the whole antisocial side of things. You got to think about the community, not just yourself. Let's continue on. The next article is dealership markups are getting crazy. So this site is tracking them. If you are curious about things like prices and inflation and the pandemic, then a site like this might be interesting for you. It says this is in the 4-Wheel Tech channel. And it says here, if there's anything harder to buy right now than a new PlayStation 5 or a graphics card, it's probably a new car or truck. By the way, graphics cards are dropping in price, so you might be interested in that. If you do a search for RTX cards, they have dropped dramatically. So dealership markups are getting crazy, so this site is tracking them. This article is over at Ars Technica, and it's written by Jonathan M. Gitlin. an extra $200,000 on a new Hummer or $20,000 on an EV6. These are terrible deals. I said in maybe it was yesterday's episode, I had a compatriot of mine tell me about a $50,000 truck that he was looking at that was marked up by $30,000. Yeah, that's the most that I have seen in my local area. So, and he's local to me. So, in the US, the vast majority of car buyers are not accustomed to ordering vehicles from an OEM through a dealership, instead preferring the convenience of taking a car home from the lot that day. Yep. We go to car lots and just buy them off the lot. There's a new site called markups.org that's crowdsourcing data. Wow. Go and check it out. I'll let you go over to Ars Technica and read the rest of this article. I'm going to have to get hustling here with this news today. I'm not rushing you, I'm rushing me if you are in my chat. I don't really like doing it, but I try to keep the show to an hour so that y'all can go about your day. The next article is over in the continuity report. Jackie Chan movies ranked by Tomato Meter. I haven't been able to fix this. This is a little glitch in the matrix. So I'll just plop it right there. And then I'll back up when I'm done showing you. So these are all the Jackie Chan movies. If you're not interested in Jackie Chan, then you probably won't like this article. But wow, it's not even populating. That's kind of sad because I don't know what it is. Whoa. Yeah, I'll have to figure it out and we'll come back to it. It could be that my browser is blocking it for whatever reason. Okay, so the next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Yeah, really. Just skip. But I'm not going to skip. I'll rush a little bit. So I'm sure everybody's fine with it. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, Mayor Watt. I'm not going to display anything and you're going to get frustrated with this, but just go to the next article. I get it. The next article is over on the Hatch Ideas channel, and this is Walmart is offering truckers a starting salary between $95,000 and $110,000 a year as retailers scramble to shore up supply chain capabilities. Yeah, really. You know how the universe is going to love me? It's storming outside. So when I go outside to get my package on my doorstep, I'm going to get struck by lightning. So if you are a trucker and you're here in the States, then you can get hired by Walmart and they'll pay you almost 6 digits. Yeah, I love storms too, building. The louder the thunder and brighter the lightning, the better, all the way up until it strikes me. And now that I've been joking about it twice in 2.5 minutes, I'm probably going to get struck. See, 3 in 3 minutes. So Walmart is raising starting salaries for truckers. And that's all because the supply chain is kind of falling apart still, and people are realizing what they are worth and tired of looking at people making $400 million a year as a CEO when the truck drivers are breaking their back doing the job, while others, sure, you're spending 100-hour work weeks, but it's not costing you your youth. You're doing a different type of work. Well, people like me think that more people in the chain from the earliest, the most recent hire, who's nothing more than a door greeter, all the way up to the CEO should have a different level of equity in the service, the enterprise. And nobody should be making $400 million a year or even $30 million a year. It's the antithesis again of society to have people with so much wealth that their wealth begets more wealth, so much more wealth that a person. I was talking to somebody day before yesterday, and I spoke about it yesterday. They calculated that to get $1 billion, they would have to work 7,500 years or something like that. Now I'm starting to forget it because it was so outrageous of a number. To get to, I think maybe it was 30 million or something like that. I can't remember what it was now, but it was some outrageous. The number of years is what really stuck out. 7,500 years to make what one person is making as a salary in 1 year. And I think it was that 400 million from Tim Cook at Apple. Yeah. So they would have to work 7,500 years to make what one person is making in 1 year. So did I throw this in there? Yeah, I did. So let's click this link. It'll take us over to Business Insider. And Ain Kane, I think it's Ain Kane and Grace Kane. Man, God, I don't know if I should even continue tonight. Grace K and Ain Kane wrote this article for businessinsider.com about Walmart offering truckers on average $100,000 a year, somewhere between 95 and 110. So that's 3 times what a starting wage might be with a 2-year degree, 35,000. Let's see. I'll scroll down a little bit. Previously, the average starting salary for a Walmart truck driver was 87,500. Now it ranges between 95 and 110. Still, $87,000. But the way I see it is, what's going to ultimately happen is these prices are going to keep going up, and companies like Walmart will start hiring automated trucks to do the long haul across the country, all the way and wherever else, right? Not always across the country, but they're going to end up doing basically doing a process where automated trucks drive until the last mile, and then human drivers step in and take the load to the destination when it's too difficult for an automated service to do it. And I think that that's coming within the next 5 years. Automated vehicles doing long haul trucking, and then local humans picking it up at the last mile. So we'll see what happens with that. It's something that I've been watching. And I think that it's all about automation. Automation will take human jobs. If you can sit there and enumerate your job in such a way where you can program something to do it, your job can be automated. And I challenge people regularly. Come up with something that you think can't be automated, and I'll tell you how it can be automated. I know of only 2 things that can't be automated, can't replace the human altogether. And I would love for people to start sending me messages like, hey, well, what about this? What about that? And I'll even remove one of them where technology is going to replace the human at some point. And this one is going to freak you out. So people have approached me when I asked that question, and they've said, well, you can't give birth. You can't use technology to create life. And so I have to remind people of in vitro fertilization and reimplantation and whatnot, but it gets a little creepier after that. there are synthetic wombs where animals have been grown inside a synthetic womb, completely outside of the body of the animal that um, this, and I think it was a baby cow, if I recall correctly. So all of this stuff, even the creation of life, and eventually I'm sure there's somebody with a questionable ethical compass that is going to say, well, I'm doing it for the better life of a person to create a synthetic womb and create a human being. I'm sure that there's some mad scientist out there that's already done it. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, there are people out there that completely deny that that's even possible. It didn't even dawn on them that it's possible, but it certainly is. Um, and so I'm just going to dangle that out there because I would really love for people to stumble across this video. I might even do a little a segment of it separate, and post that, um, because I would love to hear from people trying to come up with things that can't be automated, or tech taking it over, and making it devoid of the human until it's necessary for a human to do whatever it is. Typically, it's the consumption, it's the last part of it. Um, yeah, yeah. You're hitting on the one thing that I think robots and automation and technology can't do, and that's make a human be human. And I've ruined it for everybody because I want to hear what other people say. But maybe somebody will stumble across this and still come up with something. I just don't think that it's very easy to do that. No, you're fine. You're fine, Brilding. Okay, so I'm going to continue on. The next article is two men arrested in alarming plot to bribe someone in Jill Biden's Secret Service detail. I won't say much about this, but this is the level at which people are um, trying to harm somebody in politics. Most people aren't going to be impacted by politics, or they feel slighted by some political discourse. But most people aren't even going to be, policies. The policies that I see are open and inclusive. They're not trying to expel somebody, unless the person feels like they're being expelled because the policy is open arming more people, um, or they think that their particular amount of money is being taken from them. It's usually about money, and it's usually about inclusion, that gets people bent out of shape. But this article here is Aryan Taharzadeh, 40, and Haider Ali, 36, are charged with impersonating federal law enforcement. They obtained firearms for their disguise and bribed Secret Service targets with gifts, the feds allege. One of the alleged bribe targets was assigned to the First Lady's security detail. Just it's so absurd. But it seems like everything old is new again. People do this stupid stuff. This is a businessinsider.com article. Obviously, it's hyper focused on the United States. It's written by Laura Italiano. Wow, that's a cool name. And if you want to know more about it and the minutia of it, you can go over to Business Insider. It says one Secret Service agent in the First Lady's detail was offered a $2,000 assault rifle by one of the men arrested, officials said. It's not clear if that agent is among those on leave. And $2,000 for an assault rifle isn't really that much. So I guess they thought that the Secret Service person was a cheap purchase. The next article is over in Stock Marketeers. And twink. It's now clear the Federal Reserve has made a huge monetary policy error. Again, this is something that affects the United States. Although there are global banks, The central bank took too long to raise interest rates. Now it's playing catch up. I don't think that it took too long. I think that there's too much money in the system. It says, it's now clear that the Federal Reserve has made a huge monetary policy error. This article was or is published over at marketwatch.com. It hasn't been edited, which is kind of rare for the articles that I get from MarketWatch, but it was written by Colin Roche. So it raising rates is going to essentially stop or slow loans. It's going to slow spending. It's going to raise costs as people try to recoup that interest rate. Pardon me one second. And so here's what it says in the article a little bit. Turns out it all came true since then. So the beginning of the article is in May 2020. The author was on Anthony Pompliano's podcast describing the likelihood of high inflation in the coming years and the Federal Reserve trying to catch up. That's in May of 2020 is what this person's talking about. So they said, it turns out it all came true since then. I said the following at the time. This is the author, not me. I don't see how, say, 2021 or 2022, that if the economy is really rebounding, that we don't have 3, 4, or 5% core inflation. And I think that you could have the Federal Reserve chasing their own tail, raising rates. End quote. We shouldn't blame the Fed for everything. After all, the central bank didn't cause all of the current inflation. That was mostly created by trillions in government spending, the Treasury and fiscal policy, and the complex mess of supply chain snags during the pandemic. I have a hard time with that. Yes, there was a massive infusion of capital, but that infusion, like 2008, is coming back and it's retracting. So it's not like it's just all out there. It is and it isn't. It's being recaptured over time. This inflation, though, is that there is money. You can't invest money in the stock market and elsewhere. You can't loan it at 3, 4, 5, 6% and not expect a return on your investment. So every time there is a loan of higher and higher interest rates and it gets repaid, that money has to come from somewhere. So to me, the inequality, having billionaires with $100 billion portfolios, that money is floating around. So people are getting it and then they're spending. But now there's supposedly too few products. And that's what inflation is. Too much money, too few goods. And so people see, I can raise the rates because there's a ton of money floating around in the system. Not just rates, but prices. And that's how you end up inflating things. Now, I've been looking back layer after layer, all the way back to the raw material product, farmers themselves saying that it's gas prices, that they can't do their stuff without the gas prices. So I go and look at gas, and they've raised the price for gas, and they have record profits while blaming the rising cost of gas on oil prices increasing. Well, you can't do the three things that I'm about to say. You can't raise prices, blame rising prices of raw material oil, and have record profits while still having this fourth element that nobody ever talks about, which is high margins. If they have high margins and they're raising the cost and paying a larger fee for the raw materials and then ending up with record profits, it's because it is profiteering during a time of crisis. their profits, their margin should be smaller. Everybody is, suffering the same thing. But when I say this in that way, again, people go, "You're that's crazy talk." In a capitalist society, you're supposed to screw everybody to get profits, right? Even this guy, he's looking at me right now going, "What? Are you crazy, dude? You're the mayor of ohmTown. Go be the mayor of ohmTown. Quit talking about economic policy." Okay, so I'm going to speed across these last few articles. This is about a watch, Bamford and Peanuts. Just send you right on over to it. You can go and check it out. And this article is 100-year-old stock market indicator has tumbled into a bear market, sending a warning sign for the economy. I'll just click the link and take us straight on over to it. This is a businessinsider.com article. Hamza Farid Malik is the author of it. And it says a key stock indicator of the health of the U.S. economy has fallen into a bear market this week as investors punish transportation stocks in the face of sky-high fuel prices and slowing growth. The Dow Jones Transportation Average has been under pressure since the start of the month. Another 3% drop on Wednesday brought losses since November's record high of 18,246 to 20%, the technical definition of a bear market. So you're taking off? Hey, you got it. Yep. We'll chat. I'm all wrapped up tomorrow, but yeah, we'll have to chat. That way I can give you my perception of the app that you developed, the program that you developed. So thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Have fun. Bye-bye. The index, whose origins dates back to the 19th century, is made up of transportation stocks from logistics companies to FedEx, UPS, airlines, etc. What's more, the Dow theory, a financial theory named after the father of technical analysis, Charles Dow, suggests that the transportation index and the Dow Jones Industrial Average tend to move in tandem because the transportation is such an integral part of everyday economic activity. If it struggles, it's symptomatic of a global problem. So, and this kind of speaks to what I was talking about earlier, where even the more fundamental aspects of society, the farmers, have to raise their core rates because the fuel that enables them to farm has gone up. Well, when that goes up, food instantly increases, and it will be hand in hand with the price of that fuel. So really, the leading indicator really is going to be what's going on with the Dow Jones Transportation Average. So I'm not shocked by somebody making an article about this. The problem is that the fidelity of this, I don't think it's going to be very obvious until it is obvious. Like in your face, oh my gosh, we're about to collapse kind of a thing. So watch gas prices. So this next article is over in Hatch Ideas. And the article's title is Retailers Are Building Their Own Ad Business to Compete with Amazon. Here's the latest news on Walmart, Instacart, and more. I'm going to just kind of jump over to this article. This is in businessinsider.com. It looks like it's just written by Business Insider. It doesn't have any authors attached to it, but brands evolving their internal mechanisms to gather intelligence about their customers and trying to take over where Amazon is. These companies, Amazon is massive. I don't think that anybody is going to compete with Amazon in the virtual space. Walmart can't rise to that level. I don't know about Instacart. But it says they're betting on the growth of e-commerce in the hope of offsetting retail's thin margins by pitching advertising or advertisers on their shopper data. They're also making big hires to support these ambitions. So let's keep on scrolling through here, see if there's something that is of interest. Walmart, Instacart, Walgreens, and other retailers are also building their own platforms to grab a slice of the ad pie. They've got a ton of hyperlocal intelligence, so I wouldn't be surprised that they've got some actionable data that they can convert into advertising information. It's just going to be much higher, heavier lifting than what Amazon has because they've already got it. They've got all of these customers that are purchasing stuff online and it's being shipped. They know exactly what people want and where they want it. To the point where they knew that raising their rates for Prime to $140 wasn't going to really be met with much resistance. Amazon knows what you want before you. In fact, their companies like Target used to be like that. Target at one point knew that somebody was pregnant before the father did because of what the kid in the house, the daughter in the household was purchasing at Target. And Target sent her coupons about congratulating them for their baby. And the father blew up and got mad at Target, and Target said, something's going on. And apparently he questioned the daughter, and the daughter said, yeah, I'm pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather. And, just like I say about your internet service provider, if your internet service provider, if you're using the DNS from your internet service provider, they know every website you go to. If you are using a cable service, that cable box knows everything that you are doing, regardless of what it is. So that information is already there. Why this is as big a news as it appears to be, that these these companies are starting to lean on making their own advertising, it's kind of beyond me. You'd think that they'd be acting on this already, considering how much data that they've got. I still don't think that they can rise to the level of Amazon. Okay, well, anyway, that is the last of today's soapbox discussions. I'm going to thank you all for coming over to ohmTown here on Twitch. Don't forget, you can pick up the podcast probably tomorrow afternoon. It really depends on if I can get this out the door either tonight or it'll have to wait because I've got a lot of work tomorrow. But that said, you can always go to ohmTown.com, check out the news, be sure to log in, become a citizen. Let me know if you like the show, and be sure to follow. I need that number to hit 100, and that lets me go to the next step. And I'm telling you now that I'm going to be spending a lot more time streaming, not necessarily the news, maybe talking about ohmTown more, and introducing other shows. But the daily news show will always be in this form, probably remaining an hour. I might open it up to more discussion before and after, but I really do kind of power through an hour of 20 articles, about 20 articles. At any rate, stay awesome. Keep in touch. Be sure to follow. Say it one last time. Be sure to follow. I need your help. And thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Bye-bye.